Actually, I'm actually genuinely curious about this.
I used to have Joe Rogan on all the time. Joe is angry with me. He has a problem with me, and I know why.
Why exactly do Howard Stern and Joe Rogan hate each other? It's a feud that's lasted over 20 years and includes multiple different reasons.
What the
only made crazier by the fact that they used to be pretty—
Bro, that's Joe Rogan from back in the day? Holy shit. Oh my god.
Good friends. This could be seen during Joe's very first appearance on Howard Stern, where in September 2000, Howard began by praising one of Joe's comedy segments.
One of the best bits we've played on the radio in a long time is a bit by Joe Rogan, who stopped by today, and I want to play it for you right now. Here's Joe Rogan's bit.
After playing the lengthy segment, Howard and Joe talked about how much they liked each other.
A great bit. A great comedian, Joe Rogan. Good to meet you, Joe. Finally have you on the show.
Well, what's
happening, man?
How you doing?
This is an honor.
Yeah. It's an honor to meet you.
After which Joe Rogan became a regular guest on the show until the first incident of February 2002. Howard and Joe's
It's 20 years ago.
friendship had strengthened in the 18 months prior, so much that they'd spent time together outside of the show. On the 6th of February 2002, the pair flew to Vegas where they'd end their evening at a strip club. In a state of intoxication, Joe made some jokes/comments about the girls.
Yep, that's Alex Jones. There he is. Gang's all here. Yep.
Evening at a strip club. In a state of intoxication, Joe made some jokes/comments about the girls there, done so in a private setting between friends. Although when they'd record a Stern Show episode the very next day, Howard tried to publicly call Joe a misogynist by airing his comments from the night before.
And then we went over to Club Paradise. Joe Rogan, you see, you try to act like you're above the strip club.
Oh, come on. How am I trying to act like I'm above it?
You should see this guy's
How am I
nose.
trying to act like I'm above it?
Well, I mean, you're like, oh, these girls, they don't like me.
What are you talking about?
Yeah?
No such thing.
He goes, oh, these whores, this and that. Meanwhile, you love these girls.
I don't say it that way. Yeah, you know, Howard,
I think you're angry with women.
This was obviously a bit embarrassing.
Didn't Howard Stern do like a countdown for whenever the Olsen twins turned 18? I feel like this is like the last guy to be calling out misogyny. Like, I don't know. I mean, yeah, it's like, and like, didn't he go like, this is gonna be crazy. Y'all gonna think this didn't happen. That's how nuts it is. Didn't he go and say that he was surprised that like the Columbine shooters didn't rape some of the girls? I swear to God. Yep. Of all the people to bring this up, is Howard Stern really the guy?
But Joe didn't seem all that concerned. It was the early 2000s and controversial moments were an expectation on Howard Stern's show. Only as time progressed, Howard refused to let the moment die and would push the same narrative in a later episode when Joe wasn't there.
Joe hates women. Joe's weird. Like,
he definitely has a difficult time.
I've gone to strip clubs with him and he's like, get out of here, you whore.
In the meantime, Howard tried to manufacture even more embarrassment by inviting a girl Joe had been with in the past to
again, like, dude,
sabotage his reputation further.
He was my first one-night stand.
You're kidding.
It wasn't really a one-night stand. It was like a trailer.
By the way, you were Joe's 350th one-night stand.
That's fine. I learned a lot.
Where did you meet Joe?
I mean, which, to be fair, like, this in my opinion is fine because Howard Stern has always done really trashy content like this. He's always done this.
You learned a lot from him?
Yeah.
Sweet.
What did you learn from Joe?
Well, after that wonderful one-night stand, I got pregnant, and I...
What?
Yeah.
What?
Joe, you knocked her out?
Are you kidding?
Did you know that?
Okay, but
How old's your son?
I never kept it.
Thank you, Jesus.
Wait a minute. Hold on.
Thank you, Jesus.
Joe played the awkward moment off like
Thank you, Jesus. Fucking Joe Rogan. Oh my God.
it was no big deal. However, this was much harder after Howard then invited Joe's actual ex-girlfriend onto the show.
But how did he hurt you? Did he cheat on you? He did. Yeah.
Joe, what is your problem?
Did you think you had an exclusive relationship with him at the time?
This is on the radio for the world.
I did.
You did. Joe.
You're going hard on me, bro.
Joe, let me ask you. I mean,
Hey, enough.
why cheat on her? Why not be honest?
You know what? We used to have huge fights, and then I would...
Yeah, but why the cheating?
And having grown tired of being embarrassed.
Jesus, man. Bro, this guy is going all the way. I wonder what happened at that strip club, man.
embarrassed publicly, Joe's appearances on the Stern Show became less frequent than non-existent. Noticing the pair's potential fallout, fans took to the Joe Rogan official forums where they'd bring up the original strip club incident before they'd receive clarity from none other than Joe Rogan himself. He'd write, "My problem with Howard's version of the story is that it's complete crap. I never said getaway whores to anyone. There are a lot of aggressive strippers that were trying to get guys to buy lap dances. Howard and some of the other guys were getting them and I didn't want one. The girls were
This is what they had to do before OnlyFans.
and all I kept saying is no thanks. Somehow that turned into getaway whores when he got on the radio. When you've got a guy that you respect and admire and you've done his show a bunch of times, you think that you're friends. Then when that guy turns on you and talks badly about you, especially when it's not true, it's a gross feeling. I'm a loyal friend and that stuff means a lot to me. If I had a friend outside of show business and he gave a distorted account of me like that, I would stop hanging around him and I wouldn't trust him anymore."
I feel like Howard Stern is like in the wrong here. Like, he's just a fucking asshole. Jesus. What a dickhead.
Howard, I have no ill feelings. I still listen to Stern all the time. I was always a huge fan of the show. I'll probably do Stern again sometime. I just thought that whole situation was really weak and I didn't want to be a part of it. Having confirmed that the two were in fact fighting, Joe was asked about the feud in various radio appearances.
The alleged feud with Howard Stern and Joe Rogan here. Howard has nothing but good things to say and he was always wondering why you don't do his show anymore.
At which point,
what do you mean why you don't do his show? Bro, you brought his ex-girlfriend on to call him out. Like, what do you mean? Yeah, I wonder why.
Elaborate further.
Howard said, you know, Joe hates women. And I listened to that and I was like, that's not true. Like, and I was like, you know, what do I do? Do I go on and defend myself? And then you get into that weird cycle of, you know, like accusing and defending and like, I don't like negativity. I don't like conflict, you know? There's like a whole gotcha mentality over there.
No, that's very true.
However, Joe discussing their feud only added fuel to the fire, as Howard then took to his own show to offer his side of the argument.
Speaking of feuds, Joe hasn't appeared on our show, Joe the comedian. So I told you Joe had some problem with me, so he discussed it with Craig Fitzsimmons.
He won't discuss it with us.
No, and you know, I remember the exact incident and everything, and I knew this is what it was.
Is this Vegas?
Yeah, this is Joe's, you know, this is what Joe said.
He said something about me on the air that I didn't like. He said I hate women. And I was like, come on, man, really? First of all, I'm going to have to defend that. So then, you know, whenever you're defending something like that, it always automatically looks like you're being defensive. I don't even want to be involved. And I said, I'll just be a fan again.
And Joe's right. You know, it's better he doesn't come on because he's building this thing up. I understand what he's saying, because if you start dealing with it on the air, then it becomes even bigger.
To me, let it go.
Well, that's because he was bringing it up, though. Like, what do you mean? Let it go, bro. He's the one bringing it up. What an asshole.
Come back in and let's have fun again.
Yeah.
You know?
I like it better this way.
Whatever.
You know what I mean?
It was clear that Joe and Howard weren't exactly best buddies, although to make matters worse, all of this went down 6 months before Joe had even started his podcast, which only damaged their relationship further. In March 2015, Howard made the claim that
podcasts are for losers. Jesus Christ.
Are for losers, prompting Joe's friend Ari Shafir to bring up the topic on episode 6.
Wait, this is The Amazing Racist, isn't it? I remember watching this in high school. It was like early college or something like that. Yeah, I remember this. Howard's been out of touch for a long time. The thing is, what's crazy to me is like anybody who like knows anything about this stuff, like Howard Stern was like, he was the best guy in like the 80s and 90s for talking on the radio, in my opinion. And I think even now, nobody's as good as he used to be. He was so fucking good. So it's like, it's sad to see.
623.
You're upset with Howard Stern because he said that shit about podcasting.
That's the new thing I'm upset with Howard Stern over. It just shows.
See, like, that's not a big, I just think that's just him being a fucking asshole. That's not really that big of a deal.
how much he's lost touch. Like, that's not the way you become a radio DJ. Stern, no one wants to become a radio DJ who's doing podcasts. That's not our end goal. Anyone who listens to a podcast and listens to Howard Stern, just so you know, Howard Stern called you a loser for listening to podcasts as well.
This gave Howard Stern the chance to respond.
I got tape from Joe Rogan's podcast. He had a comedian on there who was bashing me the other night. He's a 41-year-old comedian I've never heard of, nor has anyone else, dicking around with some podcast, and he's hurt that I said that podcasts are no good. And if you sit in your room and do a podcast, you're pretending to be a broadcaster. Take the...
See, like, I like this Howard Stern. This is fucking funny to me. Right? Because, like, it's not really, like, there's no real stakes to it. Like, this is fucking hilarious. He's salty? Yeah, but it's petty and stupid and funny.
Podcast and throw it out the window. You're 41 and you're on Joe's podcast and no one knows who you are and no one's going to hear you. This guy, it's like a street performer giving advice to Paul McCartney. Howard's old. He doesn't understand podcasting. No, I understand it perfectly. He goes, and by the way, everyone who has a podcast, Howard Stern's calling you a loser. Yeah, I stand by that. Exactly what I'm doing.
However, despite Ari getting...
Yeah, see, to me, this is fucking funny. I love this.
Absolutely destroyed, it was obvious that Joe was trying to avoid drama.
Stern has really good interviews. They're really good.
Still, new ones?
Very good. He might have some ideas that I don't agree with, like the podcasters are losers, but like that guy's the #1 radio guy of all time.
Which was in turn appreciated by Howard.
Joe was nice. He was like, saying, hey, Howard's a great broadcaster. Why don't you listen to what he's saying? Joe was like, are you for real?
In a 2019 article titled Howard Stern Says He Has Changed How Much, Stern was asked, do you listen to Joe Rogan's podcast? To which he'd respond by stating, I'm a fan of Joe Rogan. I've never watched the entire podcast, but there's tons of clips of him, and he does a really good job, showing the...
I think that's pretty fucking fair. Like, to be honest, I don't know if I've ever watched an entire episode. Maybe I watched the Alex Jones episode the entire way through, but I've seen like 5,000 clips of his podcast.
Perhaps they'd resurrected their friendship. Although the very next question was, is there an issue between you guys? To which Howard stated, yeah, there is. I was a fan of Joe's comedy. I was a big proponent of his before he was a host on TV, before he got into MMA fighting or whatever. Joe was a guest one time and I said something to him off air, which I won't go into, but he took offense. I haven't heard or seen him since. I think he made the decision that I was toxic for him, but I hold no grudge, showing that there might have been another private incident between them, as was also suggested by this clip.
I said something to him in private, and he was insulted by what I said. I don't even know if he has dislike or something from me. I don't know, but no, I won't be having him on, but that's not my idea, that's his.
Despite this, the interviewer then asked Howard, has he invited you on his show? To which he'd state, he hasn't, I'm not opposed to it. I've asked him to come on my show, but he doesn't want to.
I feel like maybe Howard Stern was trying to make Joe Rogan look bad because he felt like Joe Rogan was like becoming competition or something, Like, that's my best guess for something like this, of like how to make sense out of it. But to be honest, I actually think that it could be completely about a stripper in Vegas 20 years ago. And it could have nothing to do with their careers. It could have nothing to do with the industry. It could be all about this stripper from 20 years ago. And everything else is just conjecture. So that's just my bet. That's me trying to make sense out of it, but there might be a situation where there's no sense to be made.
And I respect that it's not meant to be, which only became more ingrained in the very next year of 2020. Joe began the year by once again praising Howard Stern.
Whatever anybody wants to say about Howard Stern, he opened the door for podcasts, for sure. All these outrageous people.
That's gonna make him fucking mad. Oh, that really make him mad.
Doing podcasts, he made the roadmap.
However, as the pandemic made everything about politics, it became apparent that Howard and Joe held completely different opinions.
Oh, yeah.
While Howard Stern was vigorously pro-vaccine, Joe made it clear that he'd rather use alternate medicine, leading Howard to resuscitate their very public feud.
Like I heard Joe Rogan was saying, he says, what are you busting my balls?
I've got COVID, yeah,
he goes,
I'm taking a horse dewormer, yeah.
And a doctor gave it to me. Well, a doctor would also give you a vaccine, so why take horse
horse dewormer.
Joe provided no response to Howard's comments and instead continued to host the podcast as he'd done so previously. Showing no interest in changing his stance, Joe was then pressured by the public to alter his behavior or explain his actions, eventually leading to this video.
I'm just a person who sits down and talks to people and has conversations with them. Do I get things wrong? Absolutely, I get things wrong.
Although it seemed Howard Stern wasn't satisfied with Joe.
Which, by the way, Joe Rogan completely came out on top from this. All of those people who pulled their music from Spotify, Joe Rogan never walked anything back. He never changed anything. That video was way more popular. All of these losers that took their stuff off of Spotify. What's one of the people that took their stuff off Spotify? Let's see if they're still on. Let's see if they're on Spotify now. Neil Young. Let's see if he's on Spotify. Oh, well, look at that. Isn't it funny how these things happen? Most of his albums are missing. Oh, are they? Oh, you're right. Maybe they could all be missing. Oh, true. True.
Joe Rogan's response. The whole thing with Joe Rogan is so silly to me, Stern told listeners on Tuesday. Even the apology, he just should have said, you know what, listen, I'm a comedian and I have no idea what I'm talking about. I have no medical background whatsoever to be telling people what to do with their health, Stern continued. He should issue an apology saying, I'm wrong and go and get the vaccine before you die.
I have no medical background whatsoever to be telling people what to do with their health. I'm wrong and go and get the vaccine. Now, in my mind, I feel like you can't do both of these things. I feel like you can do one of these things, but you can't do both of them. I don't know.
Although Joe maintained his refusal to argue and instead continued to praise what Howard had done for radio.
People to this day, they make fun of Howard Stern because
So Joe Rogan started high-roading him. I love that.
Now and the way he behaves now, that guy's the man. When he was the king of all media, and now he's woke. It's crazy.
Roughly 2 months later, Joe was once again asked the following.
What do you think of what Howard's become recently?
Well,
he's the only person I know who's gone, other than Penn maybe, who's gone from being red-pilled to blue-pilled.
Yeah.
Although the conversation went elsewhere before Joe would give an answer, prolonging the feud until the two media legends clash again in the future.
Oh man, I cannot wait to see that happen again. I cannot fucking wait. Yeah, I remember all this stuff happening. I remember like Joe Rogan makes this video on Twitter. Yeah, in the ring, exactly. Holy fuck, man. And let's see here. At the end of the day, protest recording artists didn't take much out of Spotify's pocket. I had friends unsub for a while, but at the end of the day, Joe's still going to get his money. Just don't listen to the podcast. Yeah. Well, the thing is that, like, back then, I don't even remember, like, I never watched, like, the full episode. Because, like, to me, why the fuck do I want to listen to Joe Rogan talk about the vaccine? What the fuck does he know about a vaccine? Why the fuck could I want to hear him talk about, like, it's the same reason why, like, people get mad at J.K. Rowling for, like, talking about, like, gender and politics. I don't get mad because I didn't listen. She writes books. You don't fucking know anything about this. I'm not going to get upset or mad about it. I just don't listen in the first place. I wish more people would stop taking, you know, professional entertainers at their word for actual medical things. Like, legitimate, like, real things. Yeah, stop paying attention to it. Bill Burr literally called him out the same way in the podcast, saying basically, who cares what he thinks? Yeah, I remember I saw that, actually. I did. And why can't we question the vaccine? It was pushed through extremely quickly. I don't understand. Well, I think that the damage for people not being able to question the vaccine, I think we're still seeing that damage. I think the reason why people are so distrustful of the media and the government, I think that the entire thing around COVID, where you weren't able to, like, question whether the vaccine was good or not, and people that were getting unpersoned for different reasons, I think that that's tremendously hurt the amount of, I guess, like, goodwill a lot of these companies had, like Twitter, etc. That's why people are happy that Elon Musk bought the company. Like, this isn't really a good thing whenever you think about it, that one singular billionaire buys out a massive company that has a tremendous impact on public perception, right? This is a very, very worrisome thing. But people are so fucking tired of the way that Twitter was handling things that they were okay with it generally. Like, God, it was Elon. Well, I'm not really trying to get into that, but what I'm saying is that I think that you're still seeing the damage of the people that are kind of like retaliating in a way for not being able to speak out and like, have opinions about COVID. I think that a lot of people nowadays, it pushed people even more to the right, especially with like, the whole free speech stuff. Yeah, the reactionary. Yeah, it's been a massive reactionary blowback. Huge. And it's still going on now. There's the video. This is a good video. It's a Sunny video. Yeah, I actually really, I'm glad to see that because, as I said, I'm a fan of Joe Rogan. I like Howard Stern too. And so I actually didn't know any of this stuff. Yeah, there it is. I'll read a few comments and then we'll move on. And should you listen to the entire episode, Pierre McCullough or Rob Malone on stream right now? Why? I don't really care. Like, I don't care what their opinions on the vaccine is. That shit's old news. Why the fuck do I care? Like, get the vaccine, don't get it. I don't give a fuck. I'm not a doctor. What the fuck? Like, I have no idea. Like, I got a C in chemistry. I'm not interested in that kind of stuff. I don't care about it. That's it. Let's see here. Bro really riled up the anti-vaxxers? Well, I mean, there's a lot of them now. But, like, the reason why they're so riled up, another big reason is because of the fact that fucking, that they weren't able to talk about it. And people just went ape dick about that. Conversation should be open and constructive instead of silencing people. Yeah, it really did create the opposite effect. I think it did. Like now, like looking back on it 2 years ago, it definitely, I think, they were able to talk about it, though. Well, not really, though, right? Because like if they talked about it, like you would get deplatformed. Like you get your account banned for like COVID misinfo. Like everybody, what? Bro, like, you really think you're gonna, like, this happened 2 years ago. It didn't happen 30 years ago. Like, everybody remembers this. Or, like, there were, like, COVID misinfo policies. It was even on Twitch. Like, yeah, like, what do you mean? YouTube was doing it, too. Yeah, YouTube did it, too. Like, one of my videos got flagged for it, even. And I was even talking about, like, whether to get the vaccine or not. I just was talking about COVID in general. See here. Shit literally just happened. Yeah. I mean, like, fuck. Lobbying anti-COVID vaxxers with anti-vaxxers also disingenuous sleight of hand. Well, I'm not, I don't want to get into the whole topic. All I'm saying is that I think the suppression of it created a huge blowback, and we're still seeing that blowback now. Like, whether you agree with it or not, it's beside the point. I don't care. I'm just saying that, like, that's, I think, that's the effect that it's had. Touchy subject? Only for pussies that like to cry. For every other normal person, it's not really a touchy subject. It's just a conversation. Yeah, I mean, if you're a pussy that loves to cry, then yeah, I'm sure this is very touchy for you, and you're very upset. You're probably typing, oh, this dude's a fucking piece of shit. I'm going to change people's perspective right now. No, you're not, bro. Like, your message is gone before you even fucking finish typing it. Before you read the whole thing. Mad at me all you want. Yeah, exactly. I'm just saying here. I was going to repose. What's this here? But yeah, I mean, again, like, I do think, like, Howard Stern back in the day was, like, one of the best broadcasters, but, like, I do find it to be very, very funny that of all the people to call out misogyny, it's Howard Stern. Like, are you fucking kidding me, man? Come on. Especially back then. I don't fully agree with you being so absolute about these things. Go have informed opinions on these things and tell your audience what your point of view is without having to be an expert in it and without necessarily being too pushy about it. Well, I'm not absolute about it. And I just basically, I was not really comfortable talking about it because I didn't really care. Like, you might not notice, like, I don't really give a fuck about this topic that much, right? I don't care. You get mad at me all you want, but, like, it just wasn't something that I gave a fuck about. So, like, yeah, I mean, I don't think that anybody, this is a big problem that I think some people have, is that they think content creators have, like, an obligation to talk about a social issue. And you see this with, like, for example, Israel-Palestine, right? Big thing. People getting mad at X or Y person for not making a statement about it is weird. It is fucking weird. And the truth is that a lot of the people that are in entertainment aren't educated in a lot of these topics hardly fucking at all. Not caring is how you end up like China? No, that's not even true. Like, so so what you're saying is because your favorite influencer doesn't care about your pet political issue, everybody's going to be in a totalitarian state like China? Bro, go take your medicine. Jesus Christ. Bro, it's late. You're late, man. Yeah, get your meds. Jesus. Yeah, people shouldn't expect streamers or any sort of entertainer to have an opinion about this kind of stuff. They shouldn't expect. Now, I think that really, and it's like there's a nuance here, is that if a person wants to have an opinion, whether it's Joe Rogan, me, Howard Stern, XQC, Mizkiff, S-Fand, or Amarath, talk about an issue that they feel like they want to talk about, I think that they have every right to, and I completely support them expressing themselves. Now, I might not support what they say, but I support the act of expression, if that makes sense. So yeah, XQC watched a single Gaza clip and internet had a meltdown. Yeah, based off a lie. No, it's totally true. But the point is that, like, you shouldn't expect it. Pokey? Yeah. Why should Pokimane not be able to talk about something? Of course she can. Why the fuck not? Yeah, absolutely. People might disagree with what she says, but of course she should be able to talk about it. What about when misinformation is dangerous? All misinformation can be dangerous. It's just in a different way. Like, you can have, like, abstract danger and, like, direct danger. Yeah, what do you wanted to have the discussion about vaccine B? Yeah, no, it's just, I don't even understand that. Cookies gave me diarrhea? Really? It didn't happen to me. Do you agree they should be able to express themselves, but there may or may not be consequences associated with what was expressed? So, like, this, I always get this, like, I don't really understand why people think like this, right? Because somebody says, like, oh, they can express themselves, but there's consequences for if you express yourself. That's like in North Korea, whenever they say we have freedom of expression. You can say whatever you want. It's just that if you complain about the country, they blow you up. I mean, yeah, there's a consequence. The freedom of expression is fundamentally the freedom of consequence. Because, of course, you can say certain things, but whenever you say these things and there's a tremendous punishment associated with saying them, that's like saying, like, oh, it's like saying murder is legal because you can do it. Well, yeah, you can go do it, but there's a punishment for it. The lack of consequence is the freedom in itself. That's what I think. There's legal consequence. You can disagree all you want. People get attacked, lose their jobs, etc. That's the bullshit part. Usually it is, yeah. Lack of consequence from the government? Yeah. I do think that it's problematic, though, right? Consequence from viewers, not the government. Don't you guys find it pretty problematic that, like, a lot of the internet companies work as a cabal? And not cabal, I think that's a little bit too conspiratorial, right? They work as a pseudo-monopoly, and they effectively make decisions unilaterally across all these different companies, right? Like removing somebody like Alex Jones or removing, like Joe Rogan stuff potentially, right? I find this to be very problematic, is because once you have a certain level of power, right? I think that there does need to be accountability. Yeah, Russell Brand was a great example. Absolutely. To break to you, most of these industries have cartel monopolies. I think that you're right. I think most industries do have monopolies like that, but the difference is that a lot of them don't affect people on, like, a personal level in the same way that social media does. So it's more evident through social media than something like oil or, a car industry. But anyway, I could talk about this for a long time. Either way, I thought this was super interesting, and I'm glad I watched it. I was very glad I saw it.